Okay, thank you so much for joining us today for the SBIR Ignite Ask Me Anything. And over to you, Haley.
Thank you so much, Donna, and thank you for the great music. I know a lot of people in the comments appreciated that. I'm Haley Dowd. I am the Solicitation Development Lead for the Ignite Pilot Initiative that's part of NASA's SBIR program. Today, I'm going to walk through a little bit about what Ignite is, how you can be more involved, and what opportunities are really provided through the initiative. So next slide, please, Donna. All right, so I'm not sure yet who of the audience has had experience with SBIR previously. I'm sure several of you have, but for those that may not have had yet, I wanted to go through some of the benefits that the SBIR program provides for our small businesses. And while I'm doing that, you can also start working on the welcome poll that you should have had pop up on your screen to give us a little bit of information about how you learned about this opportunity and how you came to be joining with us this meeting. So for SBIR at NASA, it provides early stage funding for research and development activities. For our first couple of years of work with NASA, that is up to $1.15 million worth of funding to do those research activities. And it's really important to notice that in receiving that funding, we have no expectation of getting equity from your company. So it's a great opportunity for you to keep your intellectual property, but have funds to do that development. You also have wonderful experience working with NASA experts. So really leaders in the field and the areas that you may be interested in. And you get connections to lots of NASA programs and other government agencies to try to strengthen your business plan and have people learn more about the technologies that you are developing. Next slide. So I want to start out by just kind of giving you a baseline for how NASA views working with small businesses and how important small business innovation really is to NASA. So on your screen, you can see the Perseverance rover. And obviously, Perseverance has been in the news a lot and is doing a lot of great things on Mars. But listed on this slide are some of the small businesses that are supporting Perseverance, but all of the ones listed on this slide have been funded through the SBIR program. So these are names that you're probably seeing or maybe in the audience today. So Motive, Photon Systems, they're all very involved with work that NASA is doing, and some of those activities were really spurred by involvement in the SBIR program. Next slide. All right, so I want to get started by talking about NASA's strategic goals, and these are listed in the 2022 strategic plan for NASA. And SBIR really fits within number 3, catalyzing economic growth and drive innovation to address national challenges. So we in the program really feel like it's important for the firms that we're working with to be able to move into the commercial market and help bolster our economy through the work that you're doing. So we've definitely looked at opportunities to get our firms put into the commercial market in a strong way. And so that's kind of part of where Ignite has come from. Next slide. So looking at how NASA's mission fits with the SBIR and STTR mission. So just to read these quickly to you, empowering all small business communities to imagine, build, and utilize revolutionary technologies to drive NASA and the national economy to reach new heights. So this kind of hits on both of the previous slides where we talked about all of the great technologies that Perseverance has from small businesses, but also how important it is to NASA to try to help build up the national economy. And our vision is really a world where any entrepreneur can benefit humanity. And so that's part of our mission with this pilot as well. So next slide. All right. So just to give you a little snapshot of where the space economy was in 2020, you can see that in purple, the US government space budgets are a pretty small portion of that work. And there are lots of commercial space products and services in the market today. And that is really growing through investments. But part of the thing that we have to keep in mind is that there's still a lot of room for government investment when we're working with like large hardware, really large scale missions. So NASA is trying to help continue to build up this space economy. And part of a big part of that is our work with small businesses. Next slide. All right. So let's get down into what the Ignite Pilot Initiative is really about and why it was started. The Pilot Initiative is a 3-year program. We're actually in the development stages of our 3rd solicitation. So the first group of awardees was awarded in 2022. At that time, we had 12 companies selected for phase 1 awards, and all of those were selected for phase 2 awards in 2023. Last year, we had 10 companies selected for phase 1 awards in 2023. And Ignite is really about locating and supporting companies who view NASA as a beneficial investor in their company, but really look at the commercial market as the landing place for their product or their technology. Traditionally, with our mainline SBIR and STTR program, we have a lot of firms that really view NASA as their final customer, and we're looking for firms that view the commercial marketplace beyond NASA and really beyond government as a really valuable investor and where they can sell their products. So it is similar to mainline. Sorry. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, actually. That'll be fine. So it is similar to mainline in that we have the typical 3 phases of the SBIR program. And we will, to mention what was on the previous slide though, we will be expecting our 2024 solicitation to be released this summer, in early summer. So be on the lookout for that. But we do have 3 phases. Phase 1, like mainline, is $150,000 and a 6-month period of performance. You also qualify at that time, if you're awarded, to be part of the I-Corps process. And you can also receive TABA funds in that phase. For phase 2, it's an $850,000 award. And a little bit differently than mainline, there is a 24-month period of performance maximum, but we highly suggest and are looking for firms that are interested in having shortened phase 2 periods of performance because we want to see these technologies and these products enter the market as quickly as possible. So we're really interested in firms that have the ability to kind of shorten that period of performance. And then phase 3 is where you see a significant difference from mainline. Typically for phase 3s, we're expecting to see some sort of NASA infusion where NASA is using the technology that you've developed, and then it might go out into the broader market. But for Ignite, we really hope at that point that for your phase 3, you're getting funding from outside the government, and that we're just sort of helping you along the way. But those are non-SBIR funding dollars for phase 3. You also have the same post phase 2 opportunities. If you find after your phase 2 that you need a little bit more development, these primarily require matching funds, and they have varying opportunities and varying timing. As you get into your phase 2 award, we can dig into the details of those. Another benefit of working in Ignite, because we are a smaller cohort as a pilot, we have great engagement opportunities for the firms pre-award and post-award. So as you're learning right now, we have these opportunities to talk about what the program is all about before the solicitation is open and before we're in a blackout period. Things that are happening include a Slack channel. We have Catalyst events that we'll talk about in more detail. And we have firm coaching opportunities as well. Post award, we have better communication within the small cohort so that you can help each other along through the process. And then our partner BMNT also provides coaching for firms to understand things that small businesses need to know as they work with the government, and to strengthen their business plans. So you should have popped up on your screen right now an opportunity to tell us about whether or not you've worked with the NASA SBIR program. If you have heard of Ignite before, we'd love to have that information. There are fewer topics for Ignite because it is a smaller award pool, and those are focused on emerging commercial markets and aerospace. So we don't have the same number of topics or necessarily the same technical topics as mainline Ignite. The solicitation is less prescriptive, so we're hoping that you will maintain your go-to-market strategies and see how your technology fits within the gaps that we have. There is also a shorter proposal. So in mainline, it's primarily a written document. For Ignite, it is a series of slides and a shorter technical proposal. We also have the accelerated schedule that I talked to you a little bit about already with the shortened phase 2. In addition to that, we have an earlier due date for your phase 2 proposals. Those are due at the end of the 120th day of your period of performance. So that's 4 months into your phase 1 award, you would submit your phase 2 proposal. And the goal there is to really reduce that length of time and gap of funding between phase 1 and phase 2 and get you into the market sooner. Next slide. All right, to give you an idea of what technical areas we're looking for and kind of give you an idea of what the topics look like, we have listed on the screen for 23 and 22 the topics that were used. As I mentioned, in 22, we had 6 topics, 2 awards each with 12 awardees total. And in 23, we had 5 topics, 2 awards each with 10 awardees total. So it is very competitive, but you're getting a lot out of the program when you are awarded. So definitely consider those intangible benefits as well. They vary from really like aero related to in-space production, climate related, active debris remediation. So there's a variety of topics, and those do tend to change from year to year. Next slide. All right, so I told you we would talk a little bit more about what Ignite Catalyst events are. So I'll go through that. These are great opportunities for meeting with a variety of panel members. These events can either be hybrid or virtual, and they allow firms to interact with expert panels that consist of big NASA primes, other industrial partners that NASA may have, venture capitalists, representatives from other government agencies. And we at NASA use these to understand more about the commercial market and who's playing in that commercial space. But for you as a firm, it's really valuable for you to get face time with these experts and be able to talk through what your company is all about, what your technology is, and you can learn from these potential investors really what they're looking for, what their interests are, and what they see as the future. So to be involved in one of these catalyst events, BMNT does all of the sort of organization and arrangement of these events. So there will be a call for applications. And at that time, firms can apply to be involved in the meetings. And they're setting up, the applications are really to set up a one-on-one meeting. So you would have a firm representative with a couple of people from kind of a balance of subject matter experts from NASA, industrial partners, and venture capitalists usually. So BMNT will go through and review those and set up times for those meetings, and then the event will be held. For the hybrid events, they tend to be co-located with other industry events that could be of interest to you. As an example, those are sometimes held with conferences that relate to the topic area to try to reduce the burden of travel. So if you're already going to be there, it's a great thing for you to do. If you're not going to be there physically, you can join virtually. So we like to have that as an option as well. And we do have on the next slide some information about the next upcoming event. Yeah, so our next event will be focused on aviation batteries. It will be on May 6th in Chicago. It will also be virtual. And if you are interested in signing up for that, there's a link on the screen for how to get an application in. And then if you have other questions, particularly about the aviation battery topic, we have a topic specific Ask Me Anything session coming up on the 18th. So you can get to that link by registering on the SBIR Ignite website, and the link is there for you as well. Next slide. All right, to give you an idea of where we are in our planning for this and what kind of happens along the schedule for Ignite, we've had the majority of our catalyst events already because we use those as input into our topic selection process. Right now, we're working on developing our solicitation, so having that information about the topics is really critical for us. As a note for that, based on that note, you should know that we are definitely still in the topic selection process, so we do not have clarity on what those topics are at this time, and those won't be released until the solicitation is released. We are having our Ask Me Anythings right now. So there's a list of future events that are topic specific that you are available on the website that you can look through. I think an important thing to note for you on this slide as well is the coaching opportunities that are provided. So you can see BMNT offers sessions related to like how to tell your story, how to communicate and work with investors, and how to find strategic partners and funders. So these are great opportunities for you, and I would suggest that you take advantage of as many of those as you can if you are awarded. And then we expect our solicitation to open sometime in early summer, and then we'll go through the review process and hope to have those announced later in the fall. Next slide. All right, so there are several links here for you to collect information and for you to get tied into the events that are being held. You can always sign up for the SBIR newsletter at the SBIR website, NASA's SBIR website. The Ask Me Anythings that are topic specific are all listed on the SBIR Ignite website, and you can go register there. If you want to learn more about more of H4X Labs community building activities, you can go to their website, and then there's a link also for the Slack channel, so you can get connected there. And then if you have questions about generally like larger federal SBIR, SCTR concepts, you can go to the SBA's website. I think that's everything. Next slide. Awesome. Okay. So Donna, are we going to get into questions now?
Yep, so I'm going to go into the Q&A, and then I think we also have a couple of questions that were put into the chat, but I'll go through some of the questions that were submitted into the Q&A function first. I'll call some out, and then folks, if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A. It should be on the bottom center button of your screen. If you can't find it, then feel free to just put it into the chat, and then we'll also get to that. But let's start with some questions first. This is from Cindy. Cindy asks, what are the strategic goals for small businesses in the recently released 2024 strategic plan?
So I have not looked at the recently released. I don't have those numbers, but that strategic plan is available on the NASA website. So I'd have to direct you to that location. If you want to drop your email in, I can send you that link directly if that will help you.
Okay, thanks for that. Next one we have is from David. David asks, has NASA seen a reduction in SBIR/STTR interest as small businesses now understand the after-tax reality of performing these contracts under current tax law? Under current tax law, a SBIR contractor must now pay 2 to 3 times as much tax as the income earned from the contract.
So that is a great question. And I do know the tax changes that you're referring to. We have not seen a significant change in interest. We actually just closed our last solicitation. And so we haven't seen that reduction. I do know that there is a lot of discussion about how to handle that. So I don't have any more guidance on how you should, but that we are aware that that is an issue, but we haven't seen the effects of that in the people that have applied so far.
Awesome. Thanks, Haley. Okay. Next one is from Sylvester, who asks, is it possible for companies based in the UK to receive funding?
So you do need to be a US company for our opportunities.
Gotcha. And just to also add a little bit more color to that as well, I don't know if this might be another question, but another question that's kind of in a similar vein that's been asked a lot by folks is, are you able to apply if you've also gotten private capital funding before? So over to you, Haley.
If you've gotten private capital funding before?
Yeah. How is there any limitations or anything on that?
No, our restrictions are based on the number of people in your company, and it is viewed as a good thing to know that a firm is able to fundraise, so we can understand how your team, how good they are at bringing a product forward, if they're able to get investment, and what the likelihood really is of you being able to take your product to market and being successful.
Thanks, Haley. Okay, someone also asks, how do we join the Slack channel, Catalyst events, and coaching? And I would say we just drop the link to join the Slack into the chat. So if you click that link, you'll be able to join the Slack for the Catalyst events. Again, as Haley was saying, you can find all of that in the official SBIR Ignite website, which is this nasa.gov/SBIR_STTR/ SBIR-Ignite. So you'll be able to find all of that information there. So that question is done. And then Rodrigo asks, is this live? Does this work? We're following up from a DARPA Phase 2 SBIR. Could we do a direct to Phase 2 with Ignite, or do we need to start a Phase 1? The idea has been validated, and it's now maturing about from TRL 4 to 6. Is Ignite a good match?
So NASA doesn't do a direct to phase 2 option. So you would have to go in as a phase 1.
Okay. And then the next question, we have someone asking, can you define aerospace in the context of funding?
I might need a little more specifics about that question. Do you think that's in reference to that earlier slide, the aerospace market?
Yeah, if you can, whoever submitted that question, if you're able to just write something to clarify that, that'd be helpful. And then we can hopefully get that answered for you. But let's come back to this one. We have another question for US corporations, but foreign owned, will they qualify?
So I would probably need more information about the exact company. And we do have a really rigorous due diligence process to understand where support for the company is coming from. And so that would be sort of a one-on-one type question that we would need to talk through.
Got it. Sounds good. Another question is from Veronica. Veronica asks, how are the topics determined?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The topics are nominated by people throughout NASA, and then we have experts that evaluate those topics and make determinations on what fits right for what NASA needs at this point.
Awesome. Sounds good. And another person asks, is there a NASA SBIR Ignite Catalyst side event at Space Symposium? I can take that. So for this time, there is no Catalyst side event at Space Symposium. That was definitely one of the options that we were looking for this year, but unfortunately, we weren't able to make that happen. And so, yeah, the next upcoming opportunity, we'll refer you back to the May 6th event in Chicago. This one's going to be specifically focused on aviation batteries. But if there's any topic area that you're interested in, there's also a bunch of different channels on that Slack where you can introduce yourselves and talk more about your technologies or the specific topic area that you might be interested in. But thanks for that question. Okay. Another question we have is from Anonymous asking, are these Catalyst sessions pretty much what the topics would be about? I'll send that over to you, Haley.
That's a great question. Not necessarily. So they're used to learn more about certain markets, but that does not mean that we will be including that topic area in our solicitation.
Got it. Thank you. Another question is from David. David asks, how is IP handled?
Your IP is your IP.
Nice.
I mean, it's really straightforward. Yeah, it's a great part of the SBIR program is that you get to keep your IP.
Awesome. So we've answered that one. And then a question from John. John asks, does completing an NSF I-Core regionals with endorsement help with this business selection for NASA SBIR programs?
I would say it helps in the sense that you've done good customer discovery and developed a good business plan. Um, so if you look through our solicitation, or right now we don't have the 2024 out, obviously, but if you look through the 2023 solicitation, there is some pretty clear guidance about how the proposal is evaluated and what the reviewers are looking at. Um, so understanding your business plan and the commercial market around the technology that you're developing are all very important for the evaluation. And so if you've gone through the NSF I-Core program, you've done a lot of the legwork that is needed to build out that portion of your proposal. So I would say that, read through the solicitation, as particularly how the proposals are evaluated, and you'll get some guidance there.
Thank you. Okay, a question from Gerald. Gerald asks, are there any workshops that help us with the application process for SBIR Ignite? I can take that really fast. There are workshops to help you apply for SBIR Ignite. And not to plug this opportunity again, but for the May 6th, in addition to like the application link here is really for if you have technologies and aviation batteries, you can apply to have one-on-one sessions so that you're actually talking with NASA SMEs, other government entities, and other folks to kind of figure out if it's right fit for Ignite or kind of to give you some direction in terms of what they might be looking for. But beyond the one-on-one sessions, in the morning of that day, we'll also be having a bunch of knowledge sessions as well. So those will be the workshops that are actually going to be talking more about NASA SBIR Ignite, how to apply for it, what are considerations that you might want to have. And so those will be open for all. Those will be in person, but we're also going to be broadcasting it on Zoom as well. And so similar to this format, if you had any questions or needed any specific help, you'd be able to ask questions there. So I would just put that plug on. The general link to just join the general sessions, we haven't put that out yet because currently we're looking for applications for those one-on-one sessions. But please sign up for all of the information on the NASA SBIR website, and that way, and on the Slack, and that way you'll get informed and get that general link to join those sessions. Okay, another question we have is from Jason. Jason says that we are working on quantum computation chips. We are in talks with DARPA. Are we allowed to apply to multiple SBIR programs across the Fed?
Sorry, I'm reading through your question too while I'm looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
You do need to make sure that you are working on different innovations when you're applying, but it is beneficial that we understand that there are other investors that are interested in what you're working on. But there are some certifications that you have to complete when you're submitting your proposal about the history of that specific innovation and whether or not it's been submitted in other places.
Thanks, Haley. Okay, another question we have is from Sata Drew. Sorry if I butcher your name, but they ask, in the phase 1, which is an idea generation phase, what is the level of effort expected during this phase?
So I guess that sort of goes, I'm assuming you mean from like a PI standpoint. For our PIs, we do expect them to be working at least 50% on this activity. So we do expect, a high level of involvement in what's happening in the proposal, and that it's, the level of effort is commensurate with the requested funding amount.
Sounds good. Okay, another question we have is from Anonymous. Anonymous asks, how will showing existing commercial interest work for NASA SBIR Ignite? Can we get letters of support from companies and other government agencies, or just mention them in the slide/proposal?
So yes, you can have, there's an opportunity with Ignite to upload letters of support, but you can also list those in your slides. There's some language in the solicitation about how to take care of those and where to include them.
Sounds good. Satyam asks, are there any medtech monitoring related topics towards the aviation, e.g. monitoring of astronauts in the current call?
I don't know since we haven't defined those topics yet.
Yeah.
I don't
Watch out for the summer for the solicitation to come out. Okay. And Anonymous asks, are the limits for subcontract or consultants different than the mainline SBIR of about 33%?
No, they're about the same.
Matthew asks, does having a foreign private investor affect the proposal? Do you know if this affects government contracts?
So that has become a bigger issue recently, and we do go through a due diligence process to evaluate where funds come for and how people have invested in your firm. So it is important to include that information. There is actually like a call out in the proposal submission process as an opportunity for you to disclose what foreign investment you have received. So I would say it's very important to put that in those forms.
Awesome. And Janice asks, what TRL and commercialization proof points are you looking for in a NASA Ignite SBIR proposal?
So that's a good question. Depending on the strength of the company and the technology, I would be hesitant to put a specific TRL number in place because I think there are innovations that may be younger that would be really useful and that we have firms that are very capable of taking to market in the time within the Ignite program. But it's fairly similar to a mainline SBIR. So we would expect after phase 2 to be getting like 6, 7, 8 range.
Awesome. And then Sujesh asks, is there planned to be an open topic at some point?
That is a great question too, one that I cannot answer because we have not defined the topics. But it is a topic of conversation that comes up a lot as to whether or not NASA should include open topics.
Sounds good. And then Paul asks, can you talk about the type of proposals that Ignite is looking for? In typical SBIRs, it is a new technology or technology development and how it relates to a NASA need. Does an Ignite proposal have the same technology development piece, or is it to be commercial development?
The goal is for it to be commercial. We do not expect to have firms that are coming in expecting to only have NASA infusion. So if you're, as we see with mainline. So I would say we definitely want to see firms that have a product that has a market that is much beyond just NASA. So that could be other space related markets, or that could be markets that are terrestrial and totally unrelated to space applications. So we're looking for somebody that has the potential to enter into either very strong markets or a variety of markets that could get them profitable pretty quickly.
Got it. And then, sorry, I'm gonna butcher your name. Jayanada asks, where can I find to read the due diligence for this program?
Yeah, so There was a link up earlier for the SBIR main webpage for NASA. In each of our solicitations, we have the discussion of how we approach due diligence. And all of those solicitations are linked from our website. Like the current solicitation that was out recently for Mainline is on sam.gov, but the historical solicitations for Ignite are on the Ignite page. They're all linked there.
Okay, and then James asks, will anyone be at LSIC? Lunar surface payloads seems highly relevant to that event. I can take that question really fast, and then Haley can add if anything else. But so far, at least for Catalyst events, we don't have any that are going to be at LSIC. If you're looking for general kind of NASA presence, I would say the best way to take a look at that is through the LinkedIn. They usually post, hey, we're going to which conferences and we'll be in which provinces on social media. So look at the NASA social media on LinkedIn, and then also the website sometimes posts that out as well. Anything to add to that, Haley?
I think we'll have an SBIR representative there because LSIC is very popular. But I cannot verify right at this moment that we will, but I think we are.
Got it.
There
Okay,
will
next.
definitely be lots of people from NASA there for sure.
Yes. And if anyone is also going, you can feel free to find James, and everybody can link up together. Okay, next question's from Christiana, who asks, "What level TRL are you expecting to start and end at for the proposal?"
So kind of already answered the end question. Starting could be pretty low, 2, 3. Some are more advanced, around 4. And then as they head out of phase 2, we would expect 6, 7, 8 kind of range.
Okay. And then from John, we have what is the planned location for the April 25th radioisotope power systems? Actually, we have a couple of different questions on specific topics and talking to folks. I would say that look at the NASA SBIR Ignite website for all the registrations. Kind of the best way to get kind of direct questions about a particular subtopic answered would be at the AMAs. So if you go to the official NASA SBIR Ignite website, I'll post a link in the chat. You'll be able to sign up for those, and you'll be able to actually talk to folks who are SMEs in those specific topic areas and be able to ask more questions there.
And all those Ask Me Anythings are going to be virtual, so there won't be a physical location for those.
Sounds good. And then, yeah, James, if you wanted more information on kind of the draft topics, you can also find that there as well. Let me click that question done. Okay, a question from Anonymous. Is LLC enough or do we need a C Corps?
Yeah, it should be fine. LLC, it's not.
Okay. Daniel asks, will a letter of support be factored into the evaluation criteria?
All of that information is in the solicitation. You can see how all of that's reviewed if you look through the solicitation.
Sounds good. And then Satadru asks, can we reach out to the interested division within NASA who put out the topic to get a better understanding of their requirements?
You can reach out to them to talk in advance, definitely. The communication would go through our SBIR help desk. Donna, can you drop that email? Okay. So that's sort of the clearinghouse for all the questions that come into the program, and you can reference the specific area that you're interested in talking to someone with and mention that it's about Ignite, because if you mention that if you don't include that it's about Ignite, they will probably tell you that we're in a blackout due to the open review process for our phase 1 SBIRs that's going on right now. So I mentioned that you're looking to connect with someone to discuss more about a specific topic in Ignite, and you will be connected to a center liaison that will then get you connected to the right technical expert in that area that can talk through what NASA is looking for. But I will say we haven't defined the topics yet or made those selections. So the guidance that they might give you would be just generally understanding what NASA is interested in and what gaps and needs they see.
Awesome. Okay, a question from Anonymous who asks, do the founders or main stakeholders need to have a green card, or would you consider founders with British nationality and US-based startups?
That is a good question. I would have to get back to you on the exact information. It would be really dependent on the exact situation. So if you do have that question, that would be another one to submit to the help desk.
Thanks for that. Okay, next question is from Diego. Diego asks, are all NASA SBIR grants toward hard tech solutions, or are there software solutions that are eligible?
That is a great question. Love that question. I know it can appear that we're looking for hardware, but there are definitely software solutions that we are looking for and interested in. So don't let that be, something that stops you from submitting. There are definitely opportunities for software solutions, and sometimes those don't always fit within Ignite, and sometimes they do. It just depends on what the specific topics are. But on a large, like high level look at SBIR at NASA in general, we have like several software related topics. But I mean, you can see Donna graciously put up our topics, and you can see for 2023, we had one looking for apps, decision making applications. So.
Yeah, and then John asks, how many applications are submitted on average for each solicitation period? For example, like 10 are selected out of how many?
That is a good question. The last 2 years, we've had I don't know if we can really catch a trend. There were a significantly larger number of proposals in 22, and those were reduced a little bit in 23, I think, as people started to understand what Ignite is all about. So there were a couple hundred submitted for the 23 cycle.
Got it. And then Anonymous asks for my information. When is the blackout over? So I'm guessing that might be the blackout period for mainline, but also maybe if we can talk about when blackout starts and ends for.
Yeah, absolutely. So blackouts start when the solicitation is released. And I'll just use our 2024 phase ones as an example, since we're in a blackout right now for that. So during that time, we'll put out a blackout notification to NASA internally to let people know they're not allowed to talk about the details of that solicitation. That happens when the solicitation is released. I think the date was January 9th this year. It was in early January. And then that communication blackout will end once the awards are announced. So in early June, those selections will be announced, and then communications restart related to SBIR mainline. So for Ignite, that would mean that our communications would end in the early summer. So now is a good time to be reaching out to the topic experts in the topic areas to talk about what they're interested in and what they might be looking for. As general guidance for SBIR as a whole, we always recommend that you do try to communicate with the NASA experts in that area. And a good way to kind of get your bearing for what might be in a solicitation for SBIR is to look at the previous year's solicitation and see what's there and try reaching out to those experts in those areas. And the way that you do that, just as a reminder, is submit an email through the SBIR, NASA SBIR help desk, and then we can get you connected to the right people to build those communication channels for you.
Got it. And then we have a question from London. London asks, what category would a type of maglev system fall?
I need more information on that one.
Yeah, you can feel free to find one of the following AMAs that are linked to a specific topic area. And then if you provide a little bit more information, the SMEs there can tell you whether it fits into kind of what they're looking for in that specific topic as well. Okay, and then another question from Steven. For the Catalyst events, since these are one-on-one meetings, do the NASA participants tend to be more technical or operations focused? So I can take that. I would say generally for the one-on-one meetings, we try to get more of the technical folks on the NASA side to talk with y'all to get a better understanding. Because for you guys, it's an opportunity to talk with NASA SMEs as well as other SMEs in the space, but also kind of help shape a little bit of kind of how these folks are thinking about the problems that they're encountering. And so generally for that, we're trying to do more technical. However, if you did want to have more of like operations or business model types of conversations, those can also happen because the group in the one-on-ones are kind of a mix of technical SMEs from NASA and other government entities, as well as kind of other domain subject experts on the commercial side as well. So you can kind of have conversations on either end. And then we have, going back to the question about aerospace, it looks like, can you define the term aerospace as used in the presentation, a sector or technology? Um, Maybe I can take a first stab at that, Haley. I think kind of
Okay.
we might have said a lot of space and aerospace in this presentation, but I think one thing that's different about NASA SBIR Ignite is that we're not necessarily only looking for companies that are only focused in the space sector. It could also be companies that are working on, for example, we're talking about aviation batteries on batteries or working on climate tech, or it could be anything that is not specifically space focused, but if you could see that there is a space application to it and it relates back to that, that's definitely something that would be great for NASA SBIR Ignite. So aerospace doesn't necessarily mean that you're currently selling to aerospace customers or in that domain, but it's really, is your technology applicable to applications there?
Thank you, Donna.
And then I think this might be a follow-up. Training the sight impaired pilot. I think that might be a follow-up to that. If you have any specific questions there or like topics, you can take a look at kind of different topic areas or potential topic areas that are on the AMAs. If it seems like that's something that might fit, for sure, join the AMA and you can ask the question to the SMEs there and they can tell you whether that might be a good fit for the topic or not. Okay, and then we have another question from Anonymous. Are the SMEs POC from the support desk be a part of Ignite decision making, or are these general overall? It seems that we talk to NASA different centers. The people we talk to are not necessarily the decision makers.
So typically when we try to connect you to technical points of contact, they would be people with awareness of what is likely to go into the solicitation. So they would be the people that have an interest in the technologies in the topics or subtopics that are in the solicitation and have an interest in seeing those technologies move forward and succeed. We sometimes miss the mark in trying to build those connections, and maybe that's what has happened. But they would be people that have awareness of what's going on.
Got it. Sounds good. And I think that's all the questions that were in the Q&A. And I can quickly go back into the chat to see if there's anything we missed. I think we generally answered most of it. Oh, there's a question by Jason can we utilize NASA facilities if needed during the program?
Yes, so we usually recommend that you do not make use of NASA facilities during the phase one, just because it's a really short period of time. And as you probably know, it can take a really long time to get approval and access to government facilities. Sometimes for NASA facilities in particular, since we have really one of a kind, unique capabilities, the lead time to get into that lab or facility is also fairly long. And so that 6 month time frame just doesn't allow you enough time to get in there. But for phase two, you are definitely able to use that in the solicitation. There's guidance about how you need to reference that in your proposal. But I will say, if you're awarded a phase one and you're interested in using government facilities for your phase two, start those discussions while you're in your phase one. So you're getting those arrangements made. You can get Space Act agreements in place so that you have access to those facilities. But go ahead and start those conversations early because it can take a long time. But you are able to access this.
Okay, and I think the last remaining question, we have multiple people wondering this. When will NASA Ignite choose topics? Will it be decided before the blackout period begins?
So the topics will be released when the solicitation is released. So there's not a communication period between when the topics are selected and when the blackout starts. Which is why we're trying to have these Ask Me Anything, so you can get as much information as you can before.
And I think that is it. That is towards the end of our session. Oh, do we have one more? Yeah, that's the question that we have. So let me answer that. That's been answered. But yes, there is a ending poll that has been launched. If you guys can just take a couple of seconds to fill it out before you all leave. If you have any specific questions about a particular topic, again, make sure to check out the official NASA SBIR Ignite website. Let me share it for you. So this is our official SBIR Ignite website. If you go towards the bottom, that's where you'll be able to find this is now the general one, but these are the rest of the AMAs that are happening, and you'll be able to ask more detailed questions for each of those. So please be sure to do that. And we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in another AMA to talk more specifically about a topic. But if you have any questions in the meantime, again, there's that help desk email that's in the chat. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. We're going to refund 2 more minutes here. The recording will be made available after this link, and we'll continue the conversation on Slack. Thanks so much, and hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.